Okay, good afternoon, my student. Today, we shall be discussing on the continuation of the class we had for the introductory aspect the previous week, BOSS 411, Business Policy and Strategy 1. By second semester, the class, you will also offer this class, Business Policy and Strategy 2. The course is a 2-credit unit, and the session, as you can see, is 2019-2020. My name is there, Bisan Ezekiel Danladi Joseph. My office hours and my office is also there for you. My email, Gmail, and all of that. So, without wasting of time, let's move. This is study session 1. We are going to look at the concepts of business policy and strategy. The concept, business policy and strategy. So, here we go. We are actually, today, we are going to learn on the scholars' definitions of business policy or policy itself. Now, let me draw us back before the scholars' definition. In most organizations, they do not find any reason for them to establish certain policies that will guide the behavior of employees and employers. Policy is the only link that brings sanity, brings decorum, brings discipline in the conduct of affairs of every employees or every employer with his employees. However, there are so many scholars who have attempted to define the concept policy. Now, according to Joseph Hart in 1995, he defined policy as a guide that is developed, a guideline that is developed to permit orderly and consistent action in the pursuit of specific goals. It then means that policies are guidelines. They are not rules. Therefore, any guideline provided by the employer to the employees to have a well-behaved action in that organization is termed as what? Policy. In Zelibe and Bisan, in their own point of view, 2018 define policy as a broad guidelines that link the formulation of strategy with its implementations. Therefore, we can see in this very definition, there may be broad policy and specific policy. So, this will usher us to other aspect of policy. And this aspect which I want us to look at now is purpose and objective of business policy to organizations. Did policy have any objective? Is there any purpose why an organization should establish policy? Here we go. One of the purpose of policy or business policy to an organization is one, to integrate the knowledge gained in various functional areas of management. What are these functional areas of management? When we talk of account and finance, when we talk of production and supply, when we talk of marketing, when we talk of human resource, when we talk of engineering and all of that, these are functional management that we are talking. So, the main purpose of business policy is to integrate all those functional management, functional areas of management. All right? 2, to adopt a general approach to problem solving. Of course, the purpose of business policy is to adopt that general way of solving problem. So now that general way of solving problem will be very objective. Any problem you are going to solve must be highly objective, so that the justification of every action should be there for everyone to use. Three, to understand the complex interlinkages operating within an organization. The purpose of studying policy is to understand the complex interlinkages between one department with the other. So within the organization, policy provides us with that avenue to know the complex interlinkages. What join marketing with account and finance, what joined operation management with supply, and so on. You can continue mentioning. So that there may be other purpose, but we just view few. Some of us can do justice to go and read more, please. Next, the objective of business policy. Now, business policy has three main objectives. 1, knowledge objective. 2, skill objective. And 3, attitude objective. When we say knowledge objectives, what do we refer, or what do we mean by knowledge objective? It may mean that business policy and strategy is a course where you get more knowledge about how you treat companies' affairs. You gather so many knowledge in different areas of management. Just as the way we said, from functional areas of management, you are able to integrate them. So that will give you a good knowledge how you can manage this functional area. Then 2, it helps us to have skill, to develop skill in terms of case analysis, in terms of environmental analysis, in terms of checking what we are doing that is good, and then build on it, and then check what we are not doing that is good. What we are doing that is bad, then we check to retreat it in order not to enter into trouble. So, skill objective provide us with that. Then, attitude objective, it give us the discipline to know how we can come to work on time and all of that. So many of it within the attitude objective. Then, that is not all. This will now lead us to look at the functions business policy play in an organization. There are so many functions they play. However, the few we have here, we would like to view them and discuss. 1, provide an integrated view of management based on knowledge and experience. Business policy provides us with an integrated view of management based on what? Knowledge and experience. Of course, it is based on knowledge of what you have acquired with experience. Sometimes someone may have said this, that experience is better than knowledge. Of course, when you look at it, it sometimes speaks volume of what they say. It is true that people know it than what they read. So a student may have the knowledge, but he don't have experience. So somebody may have experience, but he don't have the theoretical aspect of that thing. So the function of policy is to see how it actually integrated both knowledge and experience to the employees. 2, complexity of business and constraint of management business in competitive dynamic environment are better explained with real life setting. You see, in business policy, we are more of, we put emphasis on reality than theory. Because we look at how this businessman was able to succeed in this dynamic and challenging environment. So we look at practical aspect. How is Dangote succeeding by diversifying so many products And now he is leading in the whole Africa as the giant of Africa in terms of market or in terms of business. So, then 3, provide a broader perspective of learning in as much as it cut across the boundary of functional management. Yes, the function it plays is that it allowed us to cut across all the field of management. And with that, we will gain more understanding of the cost. Then it also promotes employees' initiation and commitment to set objective. Business policy function make employees to perform, to do more than what you can expect. So with policy, it is like you use it to persuade employees to do what is right in the organization. So it goes a long way, promote employees' initiation and commitment. Next, it provides the basis for assessment of executive decision, of course. So whatever decision an executive officer, either board of directors or whoever, or middle managers or lower managers are going to take, they will always bear in mind that there is a policy that is guiding their behavior. Okay? Right? Next, the functions still continue. Make the study and practice of management more meaningful. It is actually the business policy that make the study of management more meaningful, because you cannot imagine an organization without policy. It's like actually like a machine without direction. So when you do not have policy in your organization, you have already paved way where employees will behave anyhow and give you anyhow result. So we must know that if we are to achieve this set objective and goals, then policy must be followed and then implemented as proposed. Then it helps the organization not to derail from the planned courses of what? Action or its objective. It is only business policy that make you to be on the track. You can imagine a train. Once a train loses the track, you know what will happen. So it is like that. The trail where, the rail where the train is passing is like a policy to the train. So if the train loses the track, that is all. So policy help organization not to derail from their own objective. All right? Then it ensures that a company is consistent in its action. It is only policy. These are the benefit, or let me say function, the policy perform in an organization. It helps organization or ensure that a company is consistent in what they have believed. Let me assume like this, or what? Let me expatiate that very statement. When we say consistency in its action, assuming a company have a policy of a credit policy that you want to give debtors. So we say 2/10 net 30. That is a credit policy. 2/10 net 30. Meaning that if a customer or if a debtor is owing you, he should be able to, if he can pay this debt within 10 days, 2% will be given to him. But if he cannot pay this debt within 10 days, he should pay 30 days, then he will lose the 10%. That is a credit policy. So for that reason, if we change that policy within a year up to 3 times, then we are not consistent. We must be consistent in our courses of action, and that makes us behave very mature. But even if you discover that you want to change that policy, it should be examined to a certain time before you can now change it. If not, you will have a serious trouble. Assuming again a company is using LIFO to evaluate their stock, then he has not finished the first accounting year, then he now brought FIFO, first in, first out. It is wrong. These are all policies. But then we are not saying that using LIFO or using FIFO is wrong. But if you are using one, be consistent and then finish it till the next. All right? Then another one is it promotes healthy working relationship and cohesive work group. Of course, business policy integrates employees, support them to work with the kind of relationship, creating a conducive relationship between employees A and employees B, especially when you group them to work as a team. Team A, Team B, and then they see the reason. They don't see themselves individual, they see themselves as an integral part of the next employees. And that helps you to achieve organizational goals and objectives. Then, it facilitates coordination of activities and define roles and responsibility. So it is only in business policy. These are the functions we derive if actually we go on to implement or design policy in our organization. Now, having seen the function policy play, there are also advantages we can derive, benefit we can get as a result of implementing policy in our organization. One, it defines and clarifies the mission and vision of the organization. It is only if we are able to implement policy or design policy in our organization, it will help us. One of the advantages we will make there is that it will help us to define or redefine our mission and vision statement. Two, it underscores the planning of future courses of action. With business policy, it helps us to plan ahead of time, to make a strategic plan so that we can avoid that unnecessary shock that will have come to us. All right? Then it deals with the assignment of what? The responsibility and the concurrent delegation of authority of all levels. I mean, at all levels. So, next, it facilitates the managerial coordination of activities and control of what? Outcomes. It provides the basis for the evaluation of managerial decision making. All the points are self-explanatory. So, these are the benefits we will derive as a result of enshrining or designing or implementing policy in our organization. Of course, you see, immediately you are able to define the objective. You should be able to see again, in everything that have advantage, there should be what? A disadvantage. All right? So as policy have advantage, there are certain small points we can derive as making it uncomfortable to us, which is disadvantage of this policy. Now, one of it is that attendance difficulties in starting policy. I mean, yeah, in starting policy in documented form is another trouble. And then inconsistency within the hierarchy of policy. 3, inconsistency of current policy with external environmental factors. I said these are challenges you will be finding, okay, as a result of you maybe trying to implement policy or design policy to work in your organization. 3, the inconsistency of what? Current policy with current legal agreement. And then misconception of policy due to what? Proper interpretations. So these are actually some of the disadvantages we may encounter as a result of implementing policy in our organization. However, these disadvantages should not deter us. Should not bring us down to say we cannot implement policy. I said this. I say an organization without policy is like a machine without direction. You must make policy to check the behavior of your employees or to guide your employees to help you achieve your organizational goals and objectives, no matter the challenges of designing policy. Thank you. Then, this will now lead us to look at principle of policy formulation. What are these principles of policy formulation? 1, for you to establish policy in your organization, what are those qualities of the procedures you need to follow? Or what are those variables we need to consider? One, statement of policy should be definite, positive, clear, and understandable to all employees or everyone in the organization. When you make a policy that is too cumbersome, is too challenging, in fact, if you make the grammar too difficult for them to even understand what the statement is saying until they consult dictionary, then you have problem. Policy should be definite, should be clear, should be understandable to any common person that pick it as an employee. So far he's an employee in that organization, he should pick it. You don't need anybody interpretation. So when you have a sound policy like that, that policy is actually a good one. Two, policy should be flexible, but should possess a high degree of what? Permanency. Of course, do not mean that when we say policy should be flexible, then every day, anything that comes, you change your policy. Anything that comes, you change your policy. Wrong. We said it should be flexible, but then should contain or have elements of what? Permanency in it. That is to say, it's not all the time you change your policy, no matter the challenges you are going to face. All right? So any policy you are going to design must have this kind of attribute we are actually mentioning now. Then there should be as many policies as necessary to cover condition prevailing in an organization, but not too many to what? To become confusing or meaningless. So, well, in this point, what we are saying here is that you should be able to provide alternative policy. Policy 1, policy 2, policy 3. The first target is policy 1. If you cannot make it in policy 1, policy 2 should take care of that case. If you cannot make it in policy 2, policy 3 should take care of it. And that is why we said the policy you should be able to do it, have as at least 3 policies that can cater with that problem. Don't make one policy, because if that first policy fail, that is all. And this is one of the things that normally cause what we call heart attack. And you see somebody staying before you know, and he has failed. And why? Because he didn't prepare for the next action. So you must prepare for alternative A policy, B policy, and C policy. In case if A did not work, use B. It will give you the result. If B did not work, use C. Definitely within the 3. You will not tell me that one cannot work. So, thank you very much for that. Then policy should be based on organizational facts and sound judgment, not merely on personal reflection. See, whatever policy you are going to design must be derived from the organization experience, organizational objective, organizational mission and vision. So if you do not go into this and you design any policy, it may fail because you do not look at the rudiment that is embedded in terms of policy, principle of policy formulation. All right? Then that is not all. Policy should recognize economic principles it should recognize economic principle, be in conformity with what? Laws, and be compatible with what? With the public interest. Now, what we are saying here is that any policy you are going to derive or design should be it should not be too expensive. That is economic. It should not, and it should have an interest to the government, to the organization, to the whole society. So there is no any way you make policy that will interest you and then suffer other people. Then it is not a policy. It should be a policy that should be very moderate. And that is why we say it should be what? Economic. It should recognize economic principles. All right? Then that is not all. We now move. Having seen how you can formulate policy, then we can now go on to look at policy implementation. Now, in my first paragraph there, I said, in policy formulation, the organization should be very thorough in implementation of the following. 1, program. You know, when you make policy, the next thing is to design a program that will fit that policy. So if you do not design a sound program that will work with that policy, it will fail. Then 2, budget. When you design a budget too, you must equally work with that budget to see how you are able to implement that budget. You know, one of the challenges we are having in this country today, and we continue having it, is policy implementation. I will come to that later. Then, procedure. What are the procedures involved for you to implement the policy? So you must also look at the procedures. If you don't have good procedures that will enable you to implement that policy, it will also what? Fail, no matter how sound those policies are. So policy implementation is a big and a huge concept that everyone should look into, because as a country, Nigeria, we have failed. I still say we have failed in this area of policy implementation. Now, I said the major challenge of most organizations and our country, Nigeria, is policy implementation. That is our major challenge. And we said the gap is too wide in terms of policy formulation and implementation, thereby causing a lot of challenges in terms of what? Corporate collapse and unprecedented what? Losses to the organization. Corporate collapse and unprecedented losses. Because we do not implement well, it will warrant us to go, the company will collapse, or we experience unprecedented loss. So now I said our major challenge in the policy making, we have environmental scanning. Then from that stage, you move to policy formulation. From that stage, you move from policy formulation, you move to policy implementation. From policy implementation, you move to policy evaluation and feedback. So, in policy, the bulk of every work in policy is not from designing. Nigeria have designed sound policies, good policies, but the major challenge we are having today, and still, we still continue having it, is what? Implementation. Just take an example. As a student, you make a small timetable for yourself to read. And then you discover that, oh, you wake up by 3 a.m. to read. And then when you make that timetable and you set alarm for yourself, and when the alarm begin to ring by 3 a.m. for you to wake up, you yourself, to start it with you to know that the policy implementation is not easy. Instead of you to wake up by that time by 3 a.m., you close your eyes, you are busy looking where the phone is, and then switch off the phone. That alone tells you that policy implementation is very difficult. So, but how do we do? We must implement what is correct, because normally what is going to be good is always coming with heart and heart decisions. So, thank you for understanding this very concept I just mentioned. Now, basic reason underpinning the study of business policy and strategy. What are the reason, the rationale behind the studying of business policy and strategy? We have so many reasons. One of it is that we say alignment with company vision and mission statement. The reason why we are actually studying business policy is to make sure that we align with the vision and mission statement. 3, to achieve organizational goals and objectives. 4, to monitor competitors and environment. And then 5, to deliver quality goods and services, to guide employers and employees' behavior, to design different strategies to survive the environment, to identify new opportunity and threat, and then to make close relationship with customer and so on. Now, what is a strategy? What we have been discussing now is policy itself. Now, we now want to know the concept strategy. According to Alfred D. Chandler, 1962, he said he defined strategy as the determination of long-run goals and objectives of an enterprise and the adoption of courses of action and the allocation of the resources necessary for carrying out these goals. Then Michael Porter in 1980 defined strategy as deliberately choosing different set of activities to deliver unique mix of what? Values. Wow. Then that is not all. Peter Drucker in 1954 said define strategy as a firm theory about how to gain a competitive advantage. Henry Maxwell, 1987, defined strategy as a pattern in a stream of what? Decision. Then Exploring Strategy 2007 and 17 defined strategy as the long-term direction of an organization. And then Inzelibe and Bisan 2018 suggests that strategy is defined as the use of skill and knowledge and design of framework of activities that will lead to the achievement of vision, mission, goals, and objectives of an organization. In another word, strategy are vehicles used to by organizations to arrive at a destination. All right? Then, statement of strategy. According to David Collins and Michael Rockstar at Harvard Business School argued that all entrepreneurs and managers should be able to summarize their organization strategy with a strategy statement. Strategy statement should have three main themes. Fundamental goal, which he called mission, vision, or objective. And then scope. You look at it, the domain where you operate. And then the last there is the advantage or the capability as to deliver all of this. All right? Then, what is a mission statement? Mission statement answer the reason why the organization exists. That is not all. He said, in another word, a mission statement aims to provide employees and stakeholders with clarity about what the organization is fundamentally there to do. And then mission statement answer questions such as, how do we get there? What are we doing to get there? These are the fundamental questions a mission statement answer. Then, what is a vision statement? A vision statement is concerned with the future the organization seeks to create in 20 years to come, in 50 years to come. How do we be? How will we be? Actually, I guess Dangote may have suggested in 100 years to come, this is what he hoped to see his company. Bill Gates, the same. And Apple, the same. All of them. Now, the vision typically expresses an aspiration that will enthuse or interest, gain competitive commitment, and strange performance. Vision statement answer questions such as, what do we do? What do we want to achieve? Where do we want to reach? These are mission statements. And then objective. Objectives are statement-specific outcomes that are to be achieved. These are often expressed in precise financial terms such as the level of sale. That is our objective. How do we make a level of, what profit percentage do we want to make, and so on. All right? Then level of strategy. We have corporate strategy. This is concerned with the overall scope of organization and how value is added to constituent assembly. All right? So, then we have business level strategy. This is about how individual businesses should compete in their particular market. This is often called competitive strategy. These may be stand-alone businesses such as University of Abuja Business School, Center for Distance Learning, Continuing Education, Institute of Education Sandwich Program within University of Abuja. All these or units are called business level strategy. University of Abuja are actually playing a business level strategy, and that is why they created a business school, University of Abuja Business School, to take care of MBA program and other PG program there. And then look at the sandwich here. I mean the sandwich and then CDL here. So all these ones are under business level. Then the last there is functional level strategy. This is concerned with how the component of an organization deliver effectively the corporate and business level in terms of resources, processes, and people. This is, of course, that is what we mean by functional strategy. And I gave an example. I said, for example, Dangote Group of company continue to raise external finance to fund its rapid growth. Its functional strategy is partly geared to meeting investment need. And you can see recently Dangote have moved to where? To sugar, to oil and gas, cement. He has almost every area of human concern when you come to industrial product and consumer product. All right? So in summary, we have today succeeded to, we have gone through, having gone through this lecture, the following we are extracted from the, as the summary of the class. We are able to discuss the definition, concept of business policies and strategy, and we are able to look at the function, the importance. We also look at the policy formulation, and then the concept of strategy and various types of strategy, mission, vision, goals, and objectives. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to listen. We hope by the next class we are going to see next, and then we discuss more. Thank you and have a nice day.